Hey Coco, we're going live any second now. Who do you want to do a shout out to?
I want to do a shout out to my guardian angels. So they are the people and the spirits that have helped me that I didn't even realize were there. Um, and all my coaches as well who like helped me to get to this point.
You gotta love that. Guardian angels and coaches. Here we go.
What
I
an
gotta agree.
intro.
I love that intro, right, Coco?
So
We're gonna
good.
talk to you all day today. We're gonna talk about Coco is a relationship, creativity, and money coach for high achievers who want to make the world a better place and have been through abuse and struggle with negative self-talk. So Coco is also a multifaceted performance artist, a DJ, painter, actor, dancer, poet, and author. That is a lot of epic stuff, Coco. I'm so glad you're on the show.
A lot of things.
How how are you today?
I'm really, really good. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy that you're here. I'm
Yeah.
happy that you stepped out of the box with your cool glasses. Like, you don't even know how happy that makes me. I love them.
We are so out of the box.
I love being out of the box.
Yeah.
Um, I think today we're going to talk a lot about narcissists today, and we're going to talk about gaslighting and PTSD because it's something that has affected your life quite a bit. And
Mm.
just to get started, I want everyone to be on the same page here. Let's talk about what is a narcissist. Everyone has heard the word, but what is it really?
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. I have done, lots of research with, therapists and lots of different people, lots of different opinions on what a narcissist is. And so I'm going to share my definition.
Yep.
Um, So I think when we get into like thinking about what a narcissist is, we think about it in terms of traits. So we think about it in terms of like, oh, self-centered, or you know, someone who has a little bit more of like I guess, yeah, like just like self-centered, always thinking about themselves, using others, all that kind of stuff. But the thing is, like when we think about it that way, then it's so easy for people who aren't narcissists, like empaths and stuff like that, to start getting into their heads and start thinking like, oh, what if I'm a narcissist? And honestly, if you are wondering if you're a narcissist, you like if you are like worried about it, you probably aren't, because narcissists don't care whether they're a narcissist or not. They're not thinking
That
about
is
that.
a
They're
very
not,
good point.
yeah, they're not thinking about that. They're not like self-reflecting at all. They're just thinking about like, where can I get my narcissistic supply? And so that's like, how can I like suck energy out of other people? How can I like play this game and manipulate this person? Maybe they're not thinking that and like consciously, but that's just kind of like how they're operating. So the way that I like to think about narcissists is they're kind of like black holes.
Mm,
So they like suck the light out, and just like there's like it doesn't go anywhere. Like it doesn't, regenerate and anything like that. It's more just like sucking the light, sucking the energy out of people, out of, other types of stuff that they can get their energy and sustenance from.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, if someone actually is a narcissist and people are around them, how how do they affect other people? Like, what is the
Mm.
bad, and is there any good that comes from narcissists? Like I've heard before that narcissists often make good leaders because people will follow
Mm.
them. So,
Mm.
what kind of energy do they suck from people, and what do they maybe
Yeah.
offer the world or not offer the
Yeah,
world?
yeah, yeah. That's a really good question. So I'll just like speak from my experience. Being around a narcissist can kind of feel like a drug, like especially because they have when you are in any kind of relationship with a narcissist, whether it's friendship, whatever, go through the phases, which is like love bombing. And then once they get you to a place where you're like comfortable and you kind of let your guard down a bit, then they start the devaluation process, right?
Um,
So when you first meet a narcissist, it might actually feel really fantastic. It might
mm,
feel like, you feel close to them, they're super um they might have like a really yeah, they're very charismatic and all that stuff, and you kind of feel attracted to them. Sometimes if you aren't aware of what narcissism is, it can be easy to get sucked into that, but once you know, you know. I find it's like you can feel the positive emotion, but there is like an underlying feeling of restriction. Like like you can't show the parts of yourself that like you have to laugh at their jokes, right?
Hmm.
Or you have to agree with everything they say, right? Or they have to be the ones in the spotlight and then you kind of have to be a bit smaller, right?
Gotcha.
And if you're in a conversation with them, especially if you're an empath, they're talking about their problems all the time, and you're like giving them all this encouragement, and they're just like sucking it in, and they're just like not giving anything back, right?
Right.
That's
That,
that's that's what it kind of feels like. It feels like this, like you're feeling like you're being like your energy is being like pulled out. Like
okay.
it's yeah.
So maybe that is one of the reasons people say that they are leaders because they're always in the spotlight and they're taking um, the I don't know if they're taking the blame for things, but at least they're getting things moving. But
Mm,
that's the only good thing that might come from a narcissist. Most of the time, we think about narcissists as being that sucking thing that you're talking about. And in your
mhm.
life, I know that you've been around that narcissistic effect. Talk about that just a little bit and how did it mold you?
Yeah. So I just first wanted to touch on that, like narcissists being leaders.
Hmm.
And you know, I think that could be true in terms of like holding a leadership position, but I think what an actual leader is someone who leads by example, someone who lifts others up, someone who, you know, their brightness, affects others in a positive way. It doesn't have to be a positive way all the time because you're not everyone's person, right? But there's like this upward lifting motion. I don't think narcissists are like actual leaders. They might hold a leadership position and be successful at achieving those things, right?
Hmm.
But if they do end up in leadership positions, it will probably come at a cost because they're not thinking about others at all. They're just thinking about the game. They're thinking about how they can win. They're thinking about how they can seem like a successful, amazing person.
Talk about it
So
from your point of view,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
from
So
what
so
happened to you.
yeah. Um, well, I mean, I grew up with narcissists very, very, very close to me. And that resulted in me kind of being the family therapist and from a very young age, like 5, and always offering advice and offering help and offering care and parenting and all of that stuff. And um eventually, when you don't get any of that back, when I was 12, I started to, act out, ask for some sort of attention. And that's where the kind of gaslighting started to happen, where it was like, oh, you're selfish. Oh, you are, you know, like, oh, you're the bad person.
Hmm.
And so I kind of, you know, being around and growing up with narcissists had affected me in so many ways. First of all, it's the feeling of just emptiness, right? Because you're not being given love. You are having things, you are being taken from, you're being taken advantage of all the time. And, you know, also being the scapegoat of narcissists, and being the scapegoat is like the person, especially if you're the scapegoat in a narcissistic family unit, then you are the one who is like blamed for all of the problems within the family,
And that's where the
right?
gaslighting comes in, then, right?
Hmm. Exactly. And then you, to survive as a child, have to start believing it. Start believing that you are the problem. Start believing that you are a bad person, and, try to prove yourself, that prove that you're a good person, prove that, whatever, so that you can be loved. And yeah, it's definitely affected me in that way, but also the loneliness, the loneliness of being a scapegoated survivor of narcissists is, they turn people against you. And then suddenly the whole family is against you, or they just don't, or maybe they're not like actively abusing you, but they're seeing the abuse and they're not doing anything about it. Or
Do they
yeah,
know that they're doing this to you or to others, or is it something that they just grew up this way and that's the way it is?
um,
Do narcissists know they're
well,
narcissists?
um, so it's interesting. Like two people can have the same abuse, like can have the same things happen to them, and one of them could become a narcissist, and one of them could like not. Right? So
Okay.
it's part like what happens to them, but it's also part like how their personality is and how they're built, right? So for example, like I am an empath,
Mhm.
and so funky spunky do. I saw my someone close to me do this kind of thing where when someone is like going through a hard time and then another person actually tries to make it worse. They
Mhm.
they're like, "Oh, that's so terrible. Oh, that must," like just like in like a in like and just like adding on to all of the things that are like bad, and just like actually making the situation worse. And also like, so this person who was close to me, they would also um when they were feeling shitty, they would want others to feel shitty and would do very specific things to do that. And then so I started doing that just because like they were very close to me and I didn't have any other thing. So the difference though was when I saw myself doing that, I there was like a watcher and an observer inside of
Mhm.
me that witnessed it, and I felt that there was something wrong with what I was doing. Like it felt bad, right? And through that kind of self-reflection, I was able to kind of start to change my behavior, even though I had zero like example. Like I think it's pretty fucking amazing that I managed to like adjust my behavior in a more healthy way without any sort of help. But that's the difference, is like there are some people who have that more like self-reflecting component, and then there's some people who don't.
So, how did you and how would people who are listening to us get past the narcissist so that you heal yourself? How did that start to happen?
Mm. Well, I always was really into self-development. Although there was a lot of shame around that, especially in my family, of like seeking out therapy and all that. You know how like there's that I don't know, what stigma
Hmm.
around like getting therapy or even like reading self-help books or whatever. So that was really strong in my family. So I definitely had some, resistance towards it, but I was always interested in it as well. And so I was in a relationship with a narcissist. And so I was trying to get therapy, and he was like, no, like I'll be your therapist. Why do you need therapy? Like you're not crazy. And all this stuff. So what what actually was the kind of turning point was I was in this relationship with this person for 3.5 years, and it
Hmm.
was very, very abusive. We were fighting like all the time. And my body just started to break down, like in so many ways. I think it was like not even something that I consciously wanted to do, which was get out, but it was like my body was shutting down and I was forced to look at what was happening. Um and then as soon as I could get out of that relationship, I knew that I kind of like got him got like it wasn't even a conscious thing that I did, but so let me give you like a short blurb about what
Okay.
happened. So I started to get chronic UTIs when I was dating this person.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like my body like being like, because the sex was quite non-consensual and very, very rough. My body was always very tense. I was very stressed all the time, and just that whole combination of just toxicity and all of that. Um, and then I was like taking antibiotics after sex, and it was really fucking me up. And um, then eventually I like read somewhere that if you grow out your pubic hair, you'll be more protected
Mm-hmm.
against UTIs. And so I decided, I was going to do that. And then he was like, "Oh, no way, you're not going to do that. If you do that, like no one ever is going to want you," and just like all of this stuff. And then so I just kind of made a decision where I was like, "Okay, well, I'm going to do it." And then he's like, "Okay, well, I'm breaking up with you." And then I was like, "Okay."
Yes. Okay. So your body
Yeah.
made that happen for you, so you didn't have to worry
Yeah,
about that. Making that decision, your
exactly.
body says this is
Exactly.
enough. So
Mhm.
now,
I know.
so
It was pretty magical.
that is like yourself telling yourself, get out of this thing, right? When other people want to get out of the narcissistic relationship, what are they going to have to do to get out? How are they going to make that happen?
You know, I think, because here's the thing. When you start pulling away from a narcissist, they're gonna know, and
Hmm.
things can get dangerous. Um, I know that when I was um, living in Vancouver, there was someone who I was close to who I didn't no longer wanted to be close to. Um, and I started to pull away and I started to notice that like wanted to pull you back and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So I think number one, get really educated around like narcissists and how they work. Like I highly recommend listening to Dr. Ramani on YouTube. She makes videos about like stepping away, and she's a therapist, so she would be more adept at like the actual steps. But
Yes.
I got out of my first narcissistic relationship through like magic and through, my guardian angels like doing stuff to my body and like speaking to me. And, you know, I think if you have any sort of spiritual practice, I would say
Yes.
like ask for guidance, ask for signs, and maybe you're already getting those signs through your body, right? Because
Right.
bodies tell us all sorts of things. And I think when we actually start to listen to the intelligence of our bodies, it's like, you know,
I love
telling us
that. I
something
love
is
that.
off. And your body will tell you exactly how to get out for your specific situation.
I was looking at your listening to your podcast, and one of the topics that you had was how much do people's own thoughts stay in the way or either help or them heal, create,
Mhm.
move on, move forward. Um, is is that what you're talking about here? Just that whole process?
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think one thing that people who have been through narcissistic abuse often struggle with is self trust
Okay.
and their self regard, right? So if you don't, one of the biggest beliefs that you need to adopt when you have narcissistic parents is, I'm not deserving of protection. That's a
Mm.
big one, right? There's also this kind of like pride and like martyrdom of being the strong one who can like take on the abuse. And this also hierarchy that gets developed in your brain where it's like, oh, I'm the strong one. These people here don't know how to handle themselves. So let me take on all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? So then there's that. And then there's also like, I'm inherently flawed or there's something wrong with me or whatever. So when you are like sitting in those thoughts, you're going to be more likely to attract narcissists because they feed off that. They're like, we like your like negative self-talk. We like your low self-esteem because they see the light in you,
Mm,
right? But they don't want
gotcha.
you to see the light in you,
Is there
right?
any reason, and I hear what you're saying here, is there any reason to remain friends with a narcissist? Um,
Mm, well, I think narcissists exist in most circles. Um, like for example, I'm a musician, artist, DJ. Um, and so, yeah, like I definitely am probably going to encounter some.
mhm.
I like to just keep a very, very just professional, like guarded, like very, very few words spoken to them, and just don't let them in. Like it's okay if
Okay.
you're like around them, but just keep a distance. Like there's this one person who I'm not sure about. I never just assume someone is a narcissist. I never do that until I'm like 100% sure. Then I'll
Hmm.
just know it for myself. I don't need to tell anyone. Um, but you know, whenever he's around, I just kind of like and like I'm in a group and then he comes in, I just kind of leave. Or I like, you know, I just I listen to my body. My body says, stay away from this guy, and then so I do.
Is it fair that you have to leave because of them as opposed to other people ostracizing them? I mean, I understand what you're saying. You're moving out of the situation so you don't hurt yourself,
Totally.
but you're not the cause of this pain. The other
Mhm.
person is.
Totally.
Um,
Totally.
how
I
do you
think,
deal with that?
what's funny is that, when you leave, the people who want to like still hang out with you, they follow you.
Okay.
Right? Like you don't miss
Okay.
out on anything. Like for example, if I, I'm want to perform at a venue and I find out that the person who owns the venue is a narcissist, right? There are so many ways to deal with that. I
Yeah.
could, address it with someone else who works at the venue, or I could work at another venue. And like, there are so many ways to like work around it. And
Hmm.
like, if you think about it like a black hole, right? There are so many different ways to like navigate around a black hole, right?
Exactly. Without getting sucked in.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean you could easily think about it like, oh, well, now you can't perform at the venue and you lost that opportunity. It's like, no, like I am the one who creates the opportunities.
Okay.
And if that person, is a narcissist and I need to not be there, then maybe I'll like go do other things and then maybe that person will get fired magically.
Yeah. So I got a
Right?
question for you.
Yeah.
For the people who are out there listening, going like, Coco, that is who I'm listening to. I love what's happening here. What are some like words of wisdom that you have for them? What do you want to pass on to people who are listening to us and they say, I need to learn from what I'm hearing here. What is the words? What do you want to say?
Mm, I would say always start with observing yourself and noticing how much of a bright, beautiful, empathic, compassionate person you are. Because when you're not acknowledging those things, that's when it's easier to attract those narcissists, right? And I think a lot of people are resistant to believing that they are this like bright, beautiful, big person because they don't want to be a narcissist,
Mm-hmm.
right? But just knowing that it is your compassion, your self awareness, and you're just like wanting to genuinely connect with other humans that makes you not one. So it is okay to like have like build yourself up and really to see that. And I think the more that you really observe yourself and observe how you are around humans, how you are kind and how you are, actively listening and helping people, like that I think is an amazing place to start. To start not only like like pushing those narcissists away, but also attracting the people who are really going to appreciate you and love you and see your brightness and want to make it even bigger.
That's awesome. I want people to
Mhm.
be able to stay in touch with you, get in touch with you.
Yeah.
We've got your website, cocomadari.com. Gotta pop over
Okay.
there. That's a beautiful site, by the way. I checked
Oh,
it out.
thank you. I did it myself.
Love your site. Well, you do a super awesome job on it.
Yeah,
You've
I
also
used to
got
be
your
a website
Instagram.
designer. Hmm.
Really? Well, it
Yeah, I used
shows
to.
because this stuff looks great.
Thank you.
We've got you on Instagram at Coco Madari and Facebook. So you make it very easy for people to find you.
Yes. I
Okay.
would say Facebook and Instagram would be the top ones to go to
Would
because
they?
my website isn't that updated, but
Okay.
right.
We'll make sure people find
Hmm.
you on those right there. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for being on. This has been like just awesome
Yeah.
listening to you, learning about narcissists who I want to avoid. Don't care for
Yes,
the leaders.
exactly. Listen, I
And
think listen to your body first and foremost. If you're not like attracted to someone, like interested in someone, that doesn't necessarily mean they have to be a narcissist. But just
yeah,
like listen to your body and interact with the people who you want to interact with and cut the people pleasing and feeling like you have to be, you can't be rude. Like you just,
yeah,
yeah,
I love
yeah.
it.
Hmm.
Thank you so much for being on. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed this. And
Thank you for having me.
all you guys, we'll see you on the next show. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye.